You're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the best in paranormal talk radio in the UK and around the world.
Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever timeline or alternate reality you currently exist in. Welcome to Transdimensional Realities, where we delve into the stranger aspects of our perceived existence. I'm your host, Milyssa Lee, and we're here on the Paranormal UK radio network. Our guest tonight is Christi Clemons Hoffman, who's an author and podcast host of the Real Life Angel Encounters podcast on the mindbodyspirit.fm network. Now, Christi is a lifelong intuitive, channel, teacher, and consultant whose passion is connecting people with their spiritual team through angel communication, mediumship, and spiritual coaching. She's the author of Real Life Angel Encounters, real people sharing real stories of miraculous encounters. So welcome, Christi, to the program.
Thank you, Milyssa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back. It's our second go around.
Happy to be here. You know, these conversations are always so much fun, and I really look forward to them.
Oh, great. Well, we were talking a little bit about your book that you wrote, Angel Encounters.
Real life.
Real people sharing real stories of miraculous encounters.
Yes, out from O Books, a division of Collective Inc. out of the UK. So yes, my first solo book, and I'm so excited to have it out. I think it's a good book, and I'm getting a lot of great reviews, and people really enjoy it because it's easy to read. The stories are very engaging, and I just think it's a fun book.
Awesome. Well, you know, some of those encounters I'm really interested in talking about. Now, yeah. I come from a background of, I've always struggled with the concept of angels. Now, I grew up in a Presbyterian church, grew up in a Christian church, but my path started taking me in different directions in my 20s, and I've done a lot of searching since then. And I always felt the idea of angels was just too, religion oriented rather than spiritual oriented. But then again, I talk to people who have had encounters, and I just like to learn a little bit more about them, what you think angels are compared to us lowly little human spirits.
Now, it's funny that you ask this, because this is a really common question. A lot of people have some preconceived notions about angels, religion, and how angelic presences fit into some sort of religious context. I don't see it that way at all. I see it as beings that are here to help us. And, the umbrella of angels to me is a very wide one. It's very broad. Mm-hmm. So these angel encounters could even be loved ones appearing in a dream, or it could be synchronous events that just happen to us, saving us from trouble or a time, or it could be someone who just shows up mysteriously. Those are some of my favorite stories. People who just kind of show up out of nowhere and they disappear just as quickly, never to be heard from again. We hear stories like that all the time.
Irene has one of those stories, and
I need to talk to her then.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it, because it's in her own book that we just re-released, Walking with the Dead. I'll keep it short. She and her husband, she had a relative that passed away up in Scotland, so they live in Wales, and they had to catch an early morning flight out of Wales to get up to Edinburgh, and they got lost. It was about 4:30 in the morning. They got lost getting to the airport, and they didn't know where they were. And then all of a sudden they look, and there's this older gentleman walking on the side of the road. So they pull over and asked him if he knows the way to the airport. And he goes, "I'll just show you." And he goes and climbs in their car in the back seat. Now, normally people would be like freaking out at that point. Like, who the hell is this guy getting in my car? But they said it felt weird. They thought it was strange, but they didn't question it or protest. And then he gave them step-by-step directions turn here, turn there. And in 20 minutes, got them to the airport. And when they got there, they thanked him. He didn't say a word. He got out and started walking away, and they looked at each other and they looked back, and he was gone. He
I
was
love
gone.
those kind of stories.
Yeah. And then what made it even stranger, because they had to rush for their flight, they couldn't think about it too much. But about a week later, Irene was really thinking about it and started asking her husband, you know, about the guy. And she goes, well, what did he look like to you? They both saw someone different.
Oh my
He
goodness.
appeared differently to each of them. To her, he looked, I think I'm getting the two mixed up between what he saw and she saw. One of them saw he was wearing glasses. Another one had said like he had salt and pepper hair shorter. The other one saw him a little bit scruffier. One was wearing like an overcoat. One was wearing like a sweatshirt or something. I mean, I'm probably getting it wrong. She'll kill me, but it was completely different.
Right.
So how
I love those stories.
obviously this wasn't a person,
Right.
and this person was able to present itself to each of them differently. And that's something that's always fascinated me, because even people who've had near-death experiences, they have things that they'll meet people, they'll see things, and I think it's tailor-made for their understanding and their perspectives. And I think that's kind of what happened.
You know, and I teach a class in spiritual development, psychic development, and one of the exercises we do is to go meet your guardian angel. And I always stress, see how your guardian angel wants to appear to you, because it is very individual. They do not have to show up with robes or wings. These are just beings who are assigned to us to help us from birth to death. Doesn't mean that they have halos and wings and all those things. They can show up in, well, in fact, one story in my book, Real Life Angel Encounters, it's called Angel in a Black T-shirt. David Ditchfield had a near-death experience. On the other side, his guardian angel was wearing a black T-shirt and jeans. And they can show up in all kinds of different ways. They don't have to show up like we think they do. So I think them showing up individually, I think that's a really important point, because they don't want to shock us. They want to be acceptable to us. And so they'll show up in a way that we would accept, right?
Well, the whole idea of the white robes, halos, wings, that came about in, Middle Ages. That was a much later, if you read in the Bible and scripture, they're never described like that. They're just messengers, they're people, or it's a light from above or whatever. And but sometimes when they do appear to people, they'll do the images of the wings, robes, and whatnot, so that that person instantly understands what kind of entity they're dealing with.
Yes.
Especially in Western culture.
Right, right. And there are stories that I've had on the podcast where they'll show up like that in a very traditional Christmas card type of way. Just again to say, all right, this is what you think we are. And yes, you're correct. This is what you think we are. But yeah, they can show up in so many different ways. My favorite story in the book is from Colleen, who was going on vacation with her family, and they were coming back dark 30 in the morning, about 4:30 in the morning. They, like to leave early. And she had been on a mission during their vacation to find a pair of denim bib overalls, like the farmers wear. She wanted to find some because they were popular in the 1970s, and she wanted another pair. Had struck out completely on finding these overalls. And they were at a gas station, convenience store, about 4:30 in the morning on the way back, stopped to gas up, maybe get some coffee. She goes in the restroom, and she's having a very indelicate situation and needed a change of clothes. Well, she had gone into the restroom and didn't see anybody else in there. No feet under the stalls, nothing else. She hears a woman's voice, says, I'll take care of everything. You go get yourself cleaned up. And she said, no, 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 no. You don't want to touch my mess. That's not safe. And this woman said, I've been working with young girls in a dormitory for a long time. You cannot shock me. It's all right. And so this caller said, okay, well, I'm just going to go to my car. I'm going to get a change of clothes, get myself cleaned up, comes back. Not only is everything cleaned up, there's nothing in the trash, and there's no sign of this woman. But when she came out on the way to her car, she saw a tall, very tall, statuesque, beautiful woman with golden skin and platinum blonde hair piled up in braids on her head and denim overalls. And so when she came back and found that this person was gone, she was mystified and went around asking the convenience store manager and her husband and everybody, did you see that woman? I want to thank her. Nobody saw her. I thought that was rather interesting. And speaking about showing up in a way that you'll accept, this angel showed up with the exact overalls that she had been hoping to find.
Here's something that a lot of people have reported incidents where they are driving and they get an overwhelming urge to pull over, or they even have a voice that says, pull the car over now. And they do, and it turns out they've avoided an accident.
Yes, there's a story of that in the book. As a matter of fact, Carrie was driving home after work one night on this hill, kind of a blind hill, the top of the hill, you know. She heard a voice said, get to the left. And she thought, what? I always drive in the right-hand lane. No, get to the left. And so she moved over to the left, and there's a bicyclist. Came over the hill. She would have hit him.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah. I have heard, and I had an incident a few months back, and I used to have this happen to me when I was a teenager or in my 20s, and then I had it when I first moved to New Jersey in this one house. But when you hear your name being called out of nowhere, and I was just lying on my bed. I wasn't asleep. I was just relaxing. I closed my eyes, but I was wide awake. And then I heard somebody say my name. And I almost didn't register it at first. Then it said it again. And that's when my eyes like popped open and looked around, and nobody's there. I have no idea what it was for. And this house has nothing, not active in any way. I've lived in active houses before. There's nothing going on here. So it makes me wonder who it was trying to get my attention.
Wait, what type of voice was it? Male, female, young, old?
Androgynous.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't tell if it was male or female. Kind of sounded a little more female if I had to really nail it down, but still, that's a guess.
What do you think it meant? What do you think they wanted?
I think, especially with everything I've been going through in the last year, I think it's trying to get my attention. I don't know what your thoughts are on what they call angel numbers, but I see them all the time, every single day. 111, 1111, 333, 444.
It's 444 right now.
Your time, it's 544 mine, but yeah,
Right.
that's still, see
Right.
what I mean? I
Yes.
see it, and there it is.
Yes.
And I can only assume it's just that not only are they trying to get my attention to say, hey, we're here, you know, you're not alone.
Right.
Even though sometimes I feel very alone. But yet I still keep getting these little signs.
You know, Milyssa, that's why I did this whole thing. This is why I started doing the work that I do. This is why I started the podcast, Real Life Angel Encounters. This is why I wrote the book, Real Life Angel Encounters, because I am on a mission to let everybody know that we are not alone. We think we are, but we've got this vast team behind us helping us. And I really feel like I will not rest until everybody understands that and knows that there are benevolent energies, beings, aliens, angels, whatever you want to call them. It really doesn't matter. But they're standing by, like the operators in the old days, standing by, ready to help us. We just have to ask.
You know, you were mentioning earlier about helping people get in touch with their guardian angels. Unfortunately, I don't think mine's available. My guardian angel is most likely in rehab.
Possibly.
I put it through a lot. Let's put it that way.
Fair.
Oh, sorry,
Oh my goodness.
I had to tell that joke. Anyway, well,
No, they really do want to help us and they're around us all the time. Yes.
when I mentioned earlier about struggling with the concept of angels, and I understand the idea of higher spiritual entities and there maybe being a kind of a hierarchy or what,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. What's always bothered me is when people say, oh, well, you have Archangel Michael is looking out for you. Okay, me and how many other billions? I
Mhm.
mean, it, I struggle when somebody uses a specific name. First of all, really, when you get down to it, these entities don't have names. We call them what we want. And who knows how many different other types of beings have been referred to as Michael, Raphael. Oh my God, I can't even name them.
Oh God, Jeremiah, Jophiel, Haniel, Raguel, Raz,
Metatron. Yeah.
yes, Gandalf. You're right. Right. Well, the thing is, how many people at any given moment are talking to Muhammad, are talking to Buddha, are talking to Jesus, to Mother Mary, to Zoroaster? All of these beings, they're omnipresent. They can be everywhere at once. I did a reading for this woman long ago when I was a little baby psychic. And she was missing her mom so much. Her mom had died after a fairly brief bout of cancer, maybe 2 months. And the mom came through right away. What a presence. What an amazing presence she had. And she said, you know what? This is great. I can be with my daughter in Kansas, my daughter in DC, my family in Mexico, and my other family all over the world. This is wonderful. Because, Milyssa, when we get to that non-physical space, we're limitless. We're not limited by the physical body anymore. We can be everywhere all at once. And so, yeah, think about how many churches are named St. Michael, how many schools are named St. Michael, St. Christopher, St. Peter. They are vast beings and they are unlimited, truly unlimited. So, yeah, they can listen to all of us. And, sometimes we have to be patient for us to listen back from them, but they are everywhere and they do pay attention. They do keep tabs on what we're doing.
Well, especially if you take into consideration, and this is a newer concept for a lot of people, that there is no time.
Right.
Linear time doesn't exist. We only think we experience linear time, but all time is now. I don't know if you've ever heard Bashar, Daryl Anka channels Bashar. I've been
Oh,
watching
yeah.
a lot of his videos lately, and it makes sense, but it makes your brain hurt, and you want to cry a little bit because some of the concepts are just so new when you're not used to it. The concept of no time, everything is happening now, and so a being can be anywhere it wants to at any given time, multiple places.
Right. Isn't
So
that fascinating? I think it was Bashar that said it was humans that found a way to screw up time.
yeah, leave it to the humans to mess things up.
My guides explained it to me like this because I was trying to wrap my mind around this. This will bend your mind like a pretzel, right? So I'm like, okay, give me some sort of model that I can understand because right now I'm so confused. And they said, okay, look at the radio in your car. All of the stations are playing on the radio in your car right now. You've got the oldies station, you've got the country station, you've got the old jazz station, you've got the new age station, you've got the classic station. They're all playing right now. But wherever you tune your dial, that is what you are focused on. That's what you're listening to. The other stations don't go away. They're there, but you're not paying attention to them.
Because you're tuned into that frequency, which is very apt description because it is all frequency, it's energy. I use a similar analogy. I talk about the electromagnetic spectrum, where visible light is this one sliver that we can see, white visible light, but yet the spectrum shoots out almost to infinity between infrared and ultraviolet. all this light we can't see, the infrared spectrum, there's gamma, the ultraviolet gamma rays, X-rays, all of these aspects are all part of the same spectrum, but we can only see this because this is what we're tuned into.
Yeah. Well, that's what the equipment that we have to see it too.
Yeah.
Right. Our eyes are not made to see the rest of it.
But we could tune in here. We're
True.
just, I feel we just have so much programmed out of us growing up by society, by culture. This is where I think a lot of the Eastern cultures have an advantage over us because they are more in tune to these types of different realities, energies, multiple dimensions, and different states of being.
Absolutely. You know, and I was trying to find some way to explain how, okay, so all time is going on now, but we do have rebirth, and death, I guess re-death, we could say that, going on at the same time. So how does that work? Isn't it all, it's just like we're starting and stopping all the time, right? And how is that? So then they showed me this huge multiplex theater.
Mhm.
All the movies are playing, but in a multiplex theater, one showing finishes and then there's a little break and then it starts showing again. So you could walk into Braveheart in the middle, catch the end of it, and then stay and watch the beginning again. Or you could jump out and you could watch, Tron or something, some space movie, catch it at the beginning. All these different things are playing at the same time, but at different rates and different beginnings and endings. And I thought, that's interesting, but it does twist my mind just a little bit.
Well, that's the problem is our human minds only work to a certain capacity. Now we can go above it. We can train ourselves to tune in. But again, when we've been, my opinion, dumbed down, stuck with a lot of dogma and cultural biases from the moment we're born.
Right.
That's why children are so much more in tune to the other side, to spiritual things. They see spirits, they remember their past lives, some of them, because they haven't had it, they haven't been told yet, oh, that's not real. That's just your make-believe. Or no, you're not seeing it. And yeah, that's your imaginary friend. And then kids grow out of it. And
right.
then they become good little consumers or whatnot that we're all programmed to be in the Western society.
Right. No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. What would happen if we were encouraged? Like, oh, that's very interesting. Tell me more. Instead of, oh, you're not seeing that. Or, wow. So you saw grandma in your room? Well, how did she look? Was she happy? Rather than you can't see grandma there. She died years ago before you were born.
Well, my mother is one who's definitely on that side because those few times I heard my name being called when I was younger, I was in my room and I heard my name being called and it kind of sounded like her. So I get up and walk across the house and I go, what do you want? She goes, what do you mean, what do you want? I go, well, you just called me. She goes, no, I didn't. I go, I just heard you. Her response was always the same. Ah, that's just your imagination. Everything, from dreams I had to anything, it was always, dismissed out of hand.
Oh, how do you feel that affected you?
Well, until I was about 19 or about 18 or 19, I was trying to be a good little Christian, trying to follow the rules, do everything I was taught, trying to be religious. But the older I got, as I started hitting my later teens, just before 20, I started falling out. I just realized this isn't resonating with me anymore. I don't feel this is right until at about age 20, when I just realized I'm rejecting the whole thing as not real, especially the whole idea of do what we tell you or you're going to burn in hell. And that kind of thing pissed me off because I feel like I'm being a good person, but I don't quite believe all of this. So, it's all fear and control.
It
And
is.
and then of course, the older I got, I started doing a lot of online research about how especially Christianity was formed, how it all came together. And again, I'm not trying to put down anybody's beliefs. Okay. If you're Christian, you have your faith, that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm telling you about my own journey. And my journey is took me in so many other different directions, more spiritual, more on the higher level, everything from Native American beliefs to, some new age stuff, but hanging around Irene also, did a lot for me. So
Oh, of course, she's a hoot. You
yeah.
know, I'm happy for people who are satisfied in their faith, that their faith gives them a lot of hope and helps them explain their world and gives them a structure that they can frame their life on. I'm very happy for people who find that because it's a beautiful thing. Their faith runs deep. But the people who truly express their faith in that way, I feel are very few and far between, because so many people I see, they use their faith to judge other people. And I don't feel like that's ever okay. They use their faith to vilify and otherize people who are maybe a different color or a different gender or a different race or a different faith. And it's never okay in my book. And to me, that's the very antithesis of what any type of faith is about.
It's always if you're not with us, you're against us attitude. And I mean, that happens in quite a few religions, as we see around the world. And it's how can I say? As an example, my twin brother, who's very Christian, he married this his wife, who was already part of this Lutheran church that I will admit was very cultish in their beliefs, and he was sucked into it. And one day we were talking on the phone, and he says to me, I'm going to be really sad when we die because I'll never see you again because you'll be burning in hell.
Oh.
Well, I laughed in his face. He didn't appreciate that. Because the idea was ludicrous. I didn't get upset by it because it's just, no, it's not going to happen. And now he passed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So now I would just like to say, okay, say that to me now. Yeah, I'm being a little arrogant here, but it's
right.
now you know better, huh?
Right. Absolutely. Well, that's just it. I don't know that anyone really knows all of the truth, the whole truth. We don't.
It's beyond our comprehension.
I think so too. I think so too. That we just can't possibly understand. But when we do get to the other side, we have a much greater grasp on it. I don't know if we ever know it then, but we do have a much greater grasp on it. So these people who just feel like their faith is the only way, they are absolutely right, and that everybody else must be wrong. To me, there's a difference between having your faith and using it to make your life have meaning, or using it to have meaning in your life. There's another energy behind just, I'm going to take my faith and use it as a cudgel to beat people and divide people. That's not what I'm talking about. When I was a child, my grandparents were very, very, very religious and very involved in their Stony Point Christian Church here in Kansas City. And it was kind of a non-denominational Christian church. And my grandfather was a deacon. My grandmother was a church lady who baked all of the cakes for all of the birthdays and the graduations and the weddings for the entire congregation. That's just what she did, and arranged flowers and all like that. They wanted me to be Christian so bad. They would take me to Sunday school as often as my parents would allow, vacation Bible school, gave me my own Bible when I was about 7. And they really tried. And I just never got it. It never made sense to me. But my mother took my brother and I to the Unitarian Church when we were really little. And then later, the Unitarian Church, or no, that was the Unitarian Church, and then Unity Church when I got in high school. But it was the Unitarian Church, especially the one I went to in middle school, the Unitarian Church, the Unitarian Universalist. The minister there was doing a series on world religions. And I was in church one day, I wasn't with the youth. And he did one speech or one talk about Zen Buddhism as part of the series. And he talked about the cycle of free birth and cycle of death and karma and all. And I said, now this makes sense. Where has this been all my life? How come nobody ever told me about this? Because this is the one thing that, like, I get this. The rest of that, I don't get it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of fun. And when my daughter was little, my daughter's hilarious. She's 19 now. But when she was little, I was a Sunday school teacher at our Unity Church, which is different from Unitarian. And she had grown up with me talking about this stuff. We were doing some lessons on Easter, how Jesus had died. The story goes that he was resurrected and he came back. And I said, well, then 3 days later, Jesus came back. She goes, oh, well, who did he come back as? I thought, oh my gosh, you've been listening.
Oh, I'm so bad.
I know, right?
Bad jokes for everything. You see, he came out of the tomb, saw a shadow, and went back in for 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah, we're both going to hell.
I know. Yeah, I am going to hell now.
But you'll rise quickly to an administrative position. You'll have tons of friends.
I'll take it. You know, at least they have warm cookies.
Hot coffee.
There you go. Everything's warm. Yeah, it's so these, with these other different levels of beings or people who are watching out for us, angels, loved ones, your spiritual tag team. You know, and again, seeing these numbers is just a constant reminder. They're constantly throwing it at me. We're here, we're here, we're here. Now, if they're trying to say something more complex, I haven't gotten it yet. I used to have some wild, more vivid dreams, and I haven't had those in a while. I guess it's just because of how everything has changed for me these last couple of years. Before, I used to be under more stress, and I would have my flying dreams. I love flying dreams. Absolutely love flying, which I realize now are probably astral travel. That I'm remembering. When I was a teenager, I had a dream that I realize now was probably not a body experience. Where it was the middle of the night, and I suddenly found myself in my backyard, and it was bright as day, even though I knew it was the middle of the night. It kind of had a green tint to it, like looking through a night vision scope. And there was somebody with me. I can't remember who it was, but all I could do was, I was just so excited and thrilled that, oh my God, I'm a ghost. I'm a ghost. I'm a spirit. This is so great. And I don't remember much more than that, but I'll tell you one thing. When I woke up, my whole body was electrified. And for 3 days, it felt like I was walking a foot off the ground. It was just an amazing experience. And I think I said it in front of my mother once, and she goes, "Why are we just dreaming?" You know, it's just always the, put it in your mind, don't think about it. And I would love to have that experience again.
Right. Well, the Talking Heads is a band. That's a band I just absolutely love. They had a song about astral travel, and she was.
Okay. I never knew that.
And she was flying through the grass, and things were looking like a movie. She was at a pleasant elevation. Yeah, she was sure she was not dreaming.
I like Talking Heads, but that one's not ringing a bell. I'm gonna have to pull that one up.
Yeah, it's on the Little Creatures album. It's so good. So it was interesting. Once I really realized, hey, wait a minute. I'd listened to it 50 times and realized she's astral traveling. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
So many of us do just chalk those things up to it's just a dream. It was one of my flying dreams, rather than it's like, oh gosh, I was actually visiting. I was off somewhere, because the physical body needs the rest. The physical body repairs and regenerates when we're sleeping. The rest of us, the non-physical part, doesn't need to. The non-physical part is free to go explore, learn, and visit. That's why um, nighttime visits from our loved ones, so dream visits from our loved ones, are so prevalent, because it's easy for them. They're non-physical anyway. They meet us here in our non-physical, and these dreams seem more real than real. This is what people always say. I had a dream about my mom, and it was more real than real, because it is in that other dimension. It's in that other plane. So I always thought that was very interesting, that, we are free to roam around. This is why when the body is going through its cycles of sleep, because it does have cycles, we kind of feel like we're just jerking back into the body, because it's like our soul is saying, wait. She's waking up now. We got to be on deck just in case she actually wakes up and comes slamming back in. Kind of fun to think about.
Well, that's supposed to be, if you have like, you're sleeping, all of a sudden you have a body spasm and you wake up suddenly, your whole body just goes like this. That supposedly you just slam back into your body after traveling.
Right.
The act of it woke you up.
Right. I mean, oh my gosh. And then sometimes you wake up tired and you feel like you've just been at work all night, or you've been at school all night. Because you probably have. You've been working on important things and studying and learning and catching up to speed of what you need to know. So all of that is so fun.
I've had a couple of experiences with what I would call after-death communication.
Yes.
My brother, when he passed away, massive heart attack, unfortunately, he was only 52.
Oh.
And but it was about, it always seems to be about 4 months later, roughly. 2 months later, I had a dream where I was in this white room. It almost looked like a hotel lavatory. It looked like all white subway tile, but it had some columns and no urinals, no bathrooms, no stalls, no nothing. But it reminded me of a bathroom, but it was all white. And as I'm standing there, I knew somebody was standing to my left. So I turned, and there's my brother standing there smiling at me, looking much better than he did in life, younger and thinner and happier. But he was smiling at me. And just because this was our type of relationship, you would think, oh, you'd like hug them, or be all happy to see them, whatever. And instead, I just looked at him with a smirk and said, well, it's about fucking time you showed up. And
that is so you.
I'm just, because I was a smart ass. I'm always a smart ass. But I know we had a long conversation after that. I just can't remember it.
Oh my God. So everything you've said is exactly how our dream visits go. And this is what I teach. I teach a class called Love Never Dies. In fact, I have one of these workshops coming up May 23rd in just a couple of weeks here in Kansas City. And sometimes I'll do it on Zoom, but this one's going to be in person. We talk about how after death communication works, like what happens to us after the body dies. Our love doesn't, our energy doesn't. Where do we go? And so we talk about the different dimensions that we reach. We talk about how it takes a while for the soul to actually go to the other side. It's a process, just like it's a process when we're born. That's why babies seem to just all of a sudden pop out and be inhabited in their body about 3 months, because it takes that long for the soul to actually come into the physical body. It takes as long for the soul to leave the physical world. And so there's that to validate your 4 months. But then also our loved ones will appear as they were in their prime. as they felt like they were on top of their game, youthful, healthy, thinner, just more vibrant. So they'll show up that way. So that's in that class as well. But then also this notion of the white room, this is so amazing because that's how I teach people to connect. We open the heart, we clear the heart, we get into a meditative state, we bring forward memories that are going to put us in touch of our loved ones, because when we're thinking of our loved ones, they come closer. So we open up our memories, we open the floodgates of our heart, and then we travel through a tube of divine light up through the throat, the crown, the brow, the crown, up to a white room about 2-3 feet over our head. And we invite our loved one to sit there with us and talk to us. So the white room, that is so interesting that showed up in your dream. And this process never fails to allow people to receive messages from their loved ones when we do this together. It's beautiful.
It almost sounds very similar. I took some classes years ago with a couple that were shamanic practitioners. And they were teaching classes on journeying. They like once a month they would have a journey session, and I went to a few of those. And then they actually started teaching classes to become a practitioner, a healer. So I went through the whole year-long course. And a lot of it is in from a shamanic point of view. And I understand this is just from one aspect. I mean, there are different spiritual beliefs that we all access the same information, just maybe different routes. And with them, it's they look at, there's the upper world, middle world, lower world. And that's not heaven, earth, and hell. It's the upper world is, again, very much more spiritually aligned, the Akashic records. Middle world is kind of like this, the earth-like. Lower world is still, it's not darkness, it's not hell, it's still where animals live, your spirit guides, your animal spirit guides live. They're all positive. They're all positive. And one time when I took a journey, which I've always struggled with, it hasn't happened often, but the one time I did, that's what happened. I went up and I was in white, and there's a building in front of me, and I knew it was the Akashic Records. So I went in it, and it was white marble everywhere. And there were bookshelves filled with books and scrolls that went into infinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I could stroll around, and I had a knowing, an inner knowing, that guided me over to one shelf, which was my lifetimes. And I had an impression that I could pull two scrolls, see two different lifetimes. And so I pulled one, and I had the impression, I didn't really see it. It's just a knowing. I get knowings without really seeing a lot of imagery. But I had a knowing of being a Roman emperor. Now, there were lots of Roman emperors, most of them unimportant. So who knows? I was probably Joe Schmo, Roman emperor. But that one was a lifetime of a man of power. I pulled the next one, and I was a lady in waiting during Middle Ages.
Oh my goodness.
So I was a young woman of servitude. And the lesson, it hit me when I came out of it, is balance. All about balance. You can call it karma, you can call it what you want. There is the masculine and feminine, divine masculine, divine feminine, the yin and the yang, the man of power, woman of servitude, just all balancing each other out. And that's what happens with these multiple lifetimes, is you're working on balancing things out. Now, I don't believe you accrue bad karma and then have to make up for it. You have experiences, and sometimes you will deal with really negative experiences. Sometimes you'll deal with positive experiences. They all kind of balance themselves out in the end. But that's what these lifetimes are about, is about lessons learned and balancing.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned balance, because that's what the word karma actually means, is balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not punishment, it's not reward, it's just balance.
Exactly.
So the bird eats the ants. The ants, when the bird dies, the ants eat the bird.
One analogy I've always used is when people start talking about evil, good and evil,
Mm-hmm.
they really don't exist. It's just our interpretation of certain actions. In nature, there's nothing evil. There just is.
Right.
Animals are not good or evil.
No.
The antelope might think the lion is evil for eating it, but they're both doing what they were designed to do.
Right.
And
Tornadoes are not evil. Storms are not evil.
they just are. It's our reaction to things, that our perception, again, this kind of goes back a little bit to what Bashar teaches, is human perception. It's what you make of it. Something happens and you decide if you want it to be a negative experience or a positive experience. And you can look at negative things happening to you, but this is where I'm at now. I look at things and go, okay, this sucks, but what am I learning from it?
Yes.
Where is it taking me as a human being, as a person? And trying to have that attitude moving forward in life, and not dwelling on the negative, like, oh, my life sucks, this is terrible, nothing good ever happens to me, yada yada yada. Well, you think like that, that's the way your life's going to be.
It is.
There is something to the power of positive thinking. Doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen to you. They will. It's how you react to them.
It's how you react to them. I used to work at Hallmark headquarters. The Hallmark headquarters are here in Kansas City. And they had these massive layoffs. And I knew that there were massive layoffs going on in the company. They told us it was coming. They told us what divisions would hit. They couldn't tell us who. So I didn't know. But when I did get the email that I was being laid off, I said, this is not happening to me. This is happening for me. I think that made all the difference. And that's when I started Radiate Wellness. That's when I started really taking what I do full time. And that's when I really stepped into fully into this metaphysical spiritual life. And it did not happen to me. It happened for me.
Exactly. And unfortunately, not enough people have that attitude because they're trained to be victims. When you get out of the victim mentality, like you may not like how the world is going. You may not like politics. You may not like certain other things that are happening around you that you really can't do anything about. So what's your reaction to it? How can you turn a negative into a positive? And you'll find that when you start doing that, you're going to be a lot happier, first of all. You're going to feel more fulfilled. And if you have something that you don't particularly like, well, there's your challenge. It's a challenge to overcome. It's a challenge to, if you can't physically change something, changing your attitude towards it, or finding some way to move forward with your life, if that makes any sense.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. What are you going to do with it? The Buddhists say the only thing that you can change is your thoughts, right? You can't change what's been in the past. You can't change what's coming in the future, but you can change how you think about it. I think that makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
And this kind of touches on some of the other work you do. I believe your attitude has a lot to do with your physical health.
I think it can. Yes, absolutely. It does. Yeah, that is the basis of my Reiki practice, is that what thoughts and attitudes, what beliefs are you holding in your body, and where? What are those thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs doing to your body? And so it's a process to decode it and to understand it. And, it can take 40, 50 years for these physical effects to manifest. And it can take that long for them to go their way too. But we just work on it all the time. We work on where are we holding grudges? Where are we holding anger?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we holding on to just negative beliefs, things that don't serve you? It's time to let it go. Time to work through it.
Depression is a good example. A lot of people who have depression do so because they are looking at things from a negative point of view. They're looking at it from a state of victimhood. And I admittedly, for a lot of my life, I was there. I had low self-esteem. I didn't like myself, put myself down a lot, looked at every bad thing like, oh my God, what now? Because it was just my attitude sucked. But I also didn't like where I was in my life for most of those years until relatively recently changing things to a point where now I'm happier. I have a zest for life now. I want to live my life and enjoy it as much as I can. And I don't get depressed like I used to. I mean, I have some down days, everybody does, but not like living in constant victimhood and being miserable.
It shows in your face. Your skin is glowing. Your eyes are bright. Your smile is ready. It shows. I used to teach meditation when I was a corporate person. I would teach meditation at Hallmark headquarters. This was actually after I got laid off. I came back and I said, you guys need meditation and you need Reiki so bad. So I came back and I taught meditation classes at Hallmark, and I was teaching another place here in the Kansas City area. It was a big international company that sells truck parts. But they brought me in to teach meditation classes. And there were these two ladies who would come to meditation classes. And they started together. They were friends. They worked next to each other. And they were it looked like they'd been smoking since they were babies. They're just like, their faces were pinched and pruny and just like, just kind of sour. Say pretty short order, 4 to 6 weeks, I noticed a huge change in them. And I said, oh my gosh, what happened to you two? I remember when you started, you just looked so unhappy, so unapproachable, but now you just look happy and you look like somebody I would want to talk to. And we had a good enough relationship that I could say this to them freely. And they said, we decided we were tired of living the way we were living. We decided we were going to make changes, and meditation was one of those changes, and just shifting our attitude to be more positive. And they honestly looked 15 years younger than when they started. Stuff works. Awesome. Right?
It does. It does. And when you get out of living in a fear-based philosophy, you're afraid all the time. And I know, in these uncertain times right now, there's so many people that are afraid. I'm not. I am not accepting a lot of things, but at the same time, I'm not looking at it from a state of fear. For me, it's a challenge to deal with. And if for something happens, not to sound morbid or whatever, but look, I've accepted the fact that one day I'm going to pass. And if it happens sooner or later, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about my life. And if the day comes, whether illness, sickness, violence, whatever, I'm ready to go. But until then, I'm going to live my life as fully as I can and try to remain positive and not let things make me afraid.
Right. I do quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is the hypnosis method that was developed by Dolores Cannon, the great metaphysician. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of sessions. And in every session, we go through past life regression. So we'll see at least one, usually more than one lifetime. There's always a natural end to the lifetime. It's important to review what happens at the end of each and every lifetime. Just what were our lessons? What was our purpose? But I know that death is nothing to fear. And it is as easy as standing up from this chair and going into the next room.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, painless, and easy. And I've done it so many times that I don't have to worry about it anymore. When it happens again, poof. You know what? My dear friend Caitlin lived in Scotland toward the end of her life. She was American, but she lived over there and she had cancer for the 4th time. It was not looking good. I knew her father had gone over to take care of her in her final days, and I was just waiting for a phone call any day, text or something, just to let us know that she passed. I was at the garden center loading shrubs in my trunk, and she came to me and she goes, well, I wanted to let you know I haven't gone anywhere. I just broke up with my body. And when I realized I could, it was ridiculously easy to do so.
I love that. I love that.
Just like her. I broke up with my body.
Yep. That relationship is over. On to the next.
Exactly. And when my dad passed, my dad was a kind of a tough nut. He was funny. He grew up thinking he was going to be a minister. He wanted to be this preacher and this big man and everything. And then he kind of became agnostic. And then he was atheist. And then he believed in UFOs and ancient aliens and things like that. And he was more agnostic. He really didn't know what was going to happen. So I was excited for him when he passed because, oh my gosh, you get to find out. I am so happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed, he came to me and he showed me being in this huge bubble, like a big bubblegum bubble. And he's just going like this, arms and legs flailing until he broke free. And he said, that's it. That's easy. I just broke up with my body, but I just like broke out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing to fear. Now, what happens before could be fearful.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a plane crash or car accident, that could be fearful. But I do believe that our team takes care of us and gets us the heck out of Dodge before it gets too bad. We can watch it, but I truly feel like we're not there for the final impact. We see the writing on the wall. It's like, okay, I'm leaving on a high note.
Yeah, we might separate, and while the body is still experiencing that, and the spirit will still absorb that, but you're not there in the moment,
Yeah. Right.
Terrified.
Right. I did a QHHT session years ago. It's one of my early ones. And when this client came into another lifetime, she immediately was gravitating toward this broken bicycle on the sidewalk. I'm like, that's interesting. And I tried to get her away from the broken bicycle. And there was just all kinds of strange things. Like she wanted to play with the boys on the sand lot. They were playing baseball, but nobody was seeing her. Nobody was talking to her. She went to church. Everybody was sad. Everybody was wearing black and nobody could talk to her or him because she was a paper boy in this lifetime, paper boy on her bicycle. And then I moved her to an important day and she was back at the bicycle. And then I just had this thought. I said, this bicycle is pretty important to you. Where are you looking at it from? She said, oh, I'm above it. And I said, well, do you see your body anywhere? Oh, yeah, it's on the ground beside the bicycle. I said, where are you? Yeah, I'm above my body. So this whole time she had been above her body. And I do believe that she had been taken out of the body before it became too painful.
Right.
Very interesting stuff,
Well, we've coming to the end of the show here.
Oh my gosh.
I know time flies. We are having fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I would love that. I love talking to you. I do.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. So, but again, thank you very much for coming on the show. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me over.
Well, that was Christi Clemons Hoffman, and her book, which is Real Life Angel Encounters, Real People Sharing Real Stories of Miraculous Encounters, is available on Amazon.com. So thank you all for joining us for another edition of the Transdimensional Realities podcast here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Have a good weekend. Be good humans. Talk to you soon.